Liam, I'm conscious you got your verbal briefing. So don't forget, every time you talk to a child, you said submit a report to the social services. So all of you as future police officers, when you come across vulnerability, whether it's a child or an adult, you have to submit a report to social services. Liam's looking ever so slightly confused, but you know that now.
Is that per child though? I'm
Per
thinking of the
child.
scenario.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if it's like 30 people at a party, is it per?
Then it's 30 reports. Okay.
Okay.
And again, those of you aren't going to, haven't done the online assessment yet, there's a part of the verbal briefing there where everyone's outside the house, the party's over, but they're still being really, really rowdy. Liam, how are you going to disperse that crowd?
Would you not just ask them to move on? Well, it depends what state they're in as well, does
Okay.
it not?
Okay. So are they going to move on? They've had a great time. They're all drinked up. What
No.
what power have you got to move somebody on?
We don't, do we?
Well, actually you do. Right. And this is your power, but you are never going to use it on the online assessment. The power is something called the dispersal zone. You can get an inspector to authorize a dispersal zone. And just for your knowledge, a dispersal zone is within the geographical area. You have to print a map and show it to them and give it to them. You have to leave the geographical area. If you don't, you'll be arrested. If you come back within 24 hours, you'll be arrested. That will disperse some of them, but very quickly you'll run out of police officers. And then you still got a crowd and still got vulnerability and no cops to deal with it. So Liam, if I were you, and for everyone else that gets to the verbal briefing, so I've considered a dispersal zone. It's tactically inappropriate to use it, so I'm not going to use it. But how else are you going to persuade people to leave? Now, all of you are much, much, much younger than me, but even I remember this. When you come out of a nightclub of a morning, 2:30 in the morning, what are the two things you want to do?
Get some food.
Absolutely right. A kebab, and how am I going to get home?
Taxi.
Yeah. So Liam and others, what you're going to say is I'm going to help encourage them to go by signposting things like, if I were you, I'd go to the night bus stop now. There's one here in 20 minutes. If you wait much longer, the queue will be too big and you have to wait an hour for the next bus. If I were you, I'd get your Uber now, because if you wait a bit longer, the algorithm is going to make your journey much more expensive and you're going to be waiting a long time. Salmonella Sid's, amazing kebabs. They shut at 3 o'clock. If I were you, I'd go there now. Nando shuts at 1 o'clock. Ask for Gemma. She's brilliant. She'll chuck you an extra portion of fries. You'll encourage them to go because they're hungry or they want to go home. That's the kind of encouragement bit. Okay?
Can I ask a question on that?
Of course.
Obviously, in the briefing, it says young people. Would you still encourage that if obviously you don't know their age?
Okay, so you're not going to disperse young people. It's a really good question. You're not going to disperse young people. Technically, a child is under 18. So if you're 17 and 354 days old, you're a child, which might seem a bit odd because you can drive a car, but you're still technically a child. So if you see someone who's 17 years old, you are not dispersing them. What you want to be doing is you want to be saying, I'm not dispersing children. I'm going to ensure that they get home appropriately. I'm going to ask the children, these young people, how do you intend to get home? I'm going to get them to ring their parents or a responsible adult, and they're going to come and collect them. So some of them are going to get collected, and they're going to go. You can remember you're taking the details down because they've come to your notice. You're going to submit it to social services. So you get some left over whose parents are non-contactable for whatever reason. And two 17-year-olds say, well, we heard that that Jem was on duty at Nando's. We're going to go get our free chips, and then we're going to get the night bus home. The night bus is going to drop us right outside our house. We'll be home in 20 minutes. Are you going to let them get on the bus? It sounds really odd because as 17-year-olds, we think we're invincible. No, and I'll tell you why. Because if that child is found dead and they're 17 years old, the last person to see them alive is Aaron, who said, no, it's all right, you get on the bus. If your parents think it's okay for you to be out and about, then so am I. No. You're not getting on the bus. But PC Aaron, I've got my dad's Uber account on my phone. I'll just get an Uber. You're not getting into an Uber either. An Uber driver is not a responsible adult. And I'm not saying they're not responsible. They are 99.9% responsible people. But they're not responsible for making sure you go inside the house. Their job is to take you to where you want to take you. If the two 17-year-olds decide to jump out 10 minutes later and go to another party, one is found dead. Aaron, PC Aaron, you're the last person to see them alive. What exactly were you thinking allowing two 17-year-olds to, you get my drift. So if all else fails, I'm going to put them in a police car and take them home with the following caveats. There are going to be two police officers in the police car. And your body-worn video is going to be on for the whole journey, including when they open their front door, go in and shut it. Because you do not want there to be any misunderstandings. So, for example, Jack and Jill, 17 years old, as Jill's getting into the car, she says, "Oh, PC Mohammed touched my backside." You look at the body-worn video, actually, Jack accidentally touched her backside. She thought it was a police officer. If your body-worn video isn't on, you cannot possibly defend yourself. And you keep it on for the whole journey, so there's no suggestions or allegations of, they said we should go to the park, we'll go for a drive, any of this kind of nonsense that could be said. You're going to keep it on for the whole thing. At the end of the event, you're going to share your body-worn video with the neighborhood policing team so they can see what the party looked like. So when they go and do their reassurance patrols later on, they knew what it felt and looked like at the time. So hopefully, Liam, I've given you a little bit of a point as to other things you want to consider in your verbal briefing.
Yeah, is this stuff that they would expect us to know though?
No, but we as a consultancy expect to bring you up to the highest standard possible. We don't want you to pass. We want you to smash it. We want you at that noisy party when you become a PC to think exactly and do exactly the things that we've just described to you. So you don't lose points for not knowing it, but just shows really critical thinking. You'll score 80% if you drop things like that into it.
Okay, brilliant, thank you.
Easily, right.